this was a blow, but we have to get up. Like our children, our children's children, and their children are depending upon us.
Season 2 of Just Getting Better is brought to you by Palm Bay International, a family-owned wine and spirit supplier.
Just like our podcast, Palm Bay knows that truly special wines just keep getting better.
Their exceptional portfolio represents award-winning family producers from the most exciting wine regions in the world.
Visit palmbay.com to find out where to buy. You know, it's so funny. Thought of you this weekend. Why?
Yes.
Because guess who watched college football? I was waiting to tell you. So yes, I watched a lot of college football. Had a great time watching it. Just wanted to tell you, thank you for the inspiration. But, you know, just wanted to tell you, I watched college football this weekend. You know, a lot of the games. It was a great Saturday. It was a great Saturday.
Did you watch my horns? Dun, dun, dun,
you know, I started and then I knew how the ending was going to be. So I was just like, you know what? Let me just go see something a little more exciting. So
I just Julia, it was too exciting. The ending was not, should have been 34-0, but that's all I'm going to say. And
I understand. So I went back third quarter and I was like, I know what's going to happen with the horn, so I'm good. Let me just go watch something that's holding my attention. But I watch a lot of college football, pretty much most of the day. Like most of the day, awesome. Watch college football, of course. And so I was just like, okay, but I think what it is later in the year for me. And I think that's why it's like, okay, I can watch this now. We got a little more rankings. And then, you know, of course.
Yeah, now's the time. If you're not going to watch any of it now, be in the mix. So now's the time.
It's like rolling. So I thought that you would be very happy that I watched.
I am very happy. I am very happy. Yes. Thank you. I needed that boost
It was
today.
exciting. It was exciting. I mean, like I said, you know, so you may make a fan of me just yet. Just want to let you know.
Yeah. You know, I've got burnt orange coming out through the top of my head. So.
So how are you?
You know, life is crazy, but I'm trying to breathe, and I've got a lot on my plate and a lot in my mind that I'm thinking about, and I'm looking forward to talking with you about some of that as we move into, you know, another future episode. But right now, today, I'm very happy to be here.
Good. Let's get started. You ready?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So Karen Boykin-Towns is president and CEO of Encore Strategies, a strategic public affairs consulting firm and vice chair of the board of directors for the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, the NAACP. Karen is also a dynamic business executive, decisive board member, love how they say that, and driver of strategic results with expertise that spans the corporate, community, and government sectors. We're happy to welcome Karen Boykin-Towns.
Hi.
Yes. Welcome, Karen. Thank you for joining us today.
I am so happy to be here with you two.
Okay. Karen, I got to go straight out the gate, discuss the rollback of a lot of DEI. Have to go straight to it. What should we know and what can we do about it as consumers? Because I also think sometimes it's not, consumers don't really understand how it affects them as well. So from a consumer perspective, can you talk about what's going to happen with some of these rollbacks?
Okay, so we're jumping right in it.
Right in it.
Well, I think it's important to note that certainly diversity, equity, and inclusion, it is a hot potato. It is something that in a lot of places they're saying there's a backlash. Definitely, we know that there's a lot of discussion. What I don't know if a lot of us are aware is that, you know, the research is telling us that while we see the headlines of this company and that company rolling back their DE&I programs, at the end of the day, they are moving forward and in many cases calling it something different. What is happening for sure is that you don't see companies going out front and banging their chests in terms of what they were doing, which is what we saw in 2020 and 2021, particularly after the murder of George Floyd. And we're not hearing about it on analyst calls. There used to be all this discussion and questions. That has stopped. But a number of companies, and I work with a number of CEOs, are looking inward, and they are saying, okay, we're not trying to get in this buzzsaw, and therefore we are focused on our employees. What we know is that inclusion, at the end of the day, inclusion is what is necessary to really keep a company healthy and working. And so while we are seeing all the headlines, at the end of the day, I think a lot of companies are going to be calling it something different, but they are moving forward with having companies that are equitable, fair, and those things, because it's a war for talent out there. If and I don't know, I have two of these. I don't know, are they Gen Zs? Whatever they are, they're 28 and 23. They're 28 and they're 23. And they don't move the way we moved. And they are about working in companies where they believe there's fairness, where they believe there's opportunity, where they believe there are values that they can connect with. And so, we will see what happens. And for those companies that may be, doing all the things that they say they're doing, or how people are trying to categorize it, I don't know where they will be in a few years, because DEI is not about doing the right thing. It is really what is important for a business to be able to compete in the marketplace. And, but it is definitely every other day there seems to be another company saying that it is doing X, Y, and Z. But what I can tell you is when I'm talking to CEOs and when I'm talking to C-suite executives, they are saying that, they are continuing with their programs. They are continuing with the things that are needed to be competitive and to have a workforce that wants to be there.
That's good to know.
Yeah, that is good to know. It's
I would also say I was last night we were at dinner with some friends, and one is the owner of a talent recruitment agency, and he was talking about his interactions with companies and similar. So I read, I participate in research. There's actually one, got a request to be interviewed for some stuff that they're doing. And, but it's enough to give you pause. And we have to stay informed. We have to stay informed. We have to, where we see things, we have to use our voice and advocate for change. And we have to be intentional of our choices. If it is clear that there is a company out there that is operating in a way that does not meet your values, we use the power of our feet, of our dollars, to not engage with those types of companies. So we have to, like with everything, we have to be aware, we have to be intentional, we have to kind of, stay ready so you don't have to get ready.
Okay. Thank you.
I like that. Yeah, yeah. I do that too. So I'm happy to know that those things actually make a difference.
They do.
But Karen, I have to say, you are renowned as a visionary leader. You built a distinguished career in policy, advocacy, and strategic change management. Just going through your Instagram page, I mean, it's impressive. It's yes. Like who's who in government, corporate, nonprofit sector, along with countless awards and accolades that you have received for all of your hard work in championing civil rights and social justice. So when I think about all that, I thought to myself, when do you sleep? But that's not my actual question. I told Julia there's so many topics that I feel like that you and I that we could all three discuss that I'm not even sure where to begin. You are just a tremendous woman. So I want to know from you, where does your confidence and acumen come from? Has someone mentored you, championed you, many people along the way? Like, tell us a little bit about your background and how you became so fiercely fabulous.
Oh, well, thank you so much. And I do sleep. I grew up in Harlem, New York. the daughter of a mother who was a nurse's aide. I have a younger sister, and the two of us went on to college and we got advanced degrees. And when you talk about confidence, I think it's something that you build over time. When I talk to my daughters, and, sometimes when you have, a parent that, people, I love dealing with young people. And so while they may not think I'm so cool, their friends do, and the other young leaders that I work with, they do. So I am cool. But, they want to, they don't understand that, you go from here and you go from here, they want to kind of be here immediately, right? And what I tell them all the time is, I was not always the 59-year-old Karen that you see before you, right? It has come through trials and tribulations. It's come by, successes and more success, but it's a process. And so, I've been very, very fortunate to have people who have come into my life and who have imparted wisdom to me. I have people right now who, I meet with, who, I get ideas from, who give me inspiration, who help me to keep going. And so I just think, I would not be honest if I'm like, yeah, I woke up like this, or I was born like this.
But you are a fabulous 59. I mean, seriously.
Yeah. So, so it's just one of those things that, and I think the older you get, the more comfortable and confident you become in yourself. And, I don't know that I've heard anyone say bad words on your show and watching all of your episodes. So
I feel like there's been some. So
I will refrain. But, you just, like, I'm not going to worry about that. I'm not going to let that, bother me. But it's a process. But, it's nice to, have more confidence and a sense of self. And when you walk in a room, not caring who else is in that room, because you bad, and whoever else is in there, whatever,
I think for many women, though, it's still a struggle. I mean, there's I think a lot of women in confidence, as you said, it grows, but I still find even when you are the smartest in the room or in the top of the smartest in the room, sometimes you can still feel like, do I belong in this room?
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I mean, certainly there are people who want you to doubt yourself. And I would be dishonest if I would say that, sometimes you have to, put that steel in your back to go in certain rooms, right? Because we know, we've heard about the imposter syndrome. We know how sometimes we can be made to feel less than. I didn't go to an Ivy League college. My children didn't go to Ivy League colleges. Both of my daughters are graduates of North Carolina A&T, Aggie Pride. They are both engineers. They both work at companies that are global entities. But I have friends and I know people who are just like, oh, they went to an HBCU. Right? I mean, but they are beautiful, they are brilliant, they are successful. And, where you went to school doesn't always determine your outcomes. Because I have friends who've gone to Ivy League, kids have gone to Ivy League schools and they don't have a job.
Interesting.
So it's just, my thing is there's a place and a space for everybody. And the girls went to boarding school in New Hampshire, but they went to an HBCU. And we thought that that was the best place for them as women who wanted to be engineers, to be in a place where they would be academically challenged, but they would not have a lot of the other crap that sometimes comes with women trying to pursue technical degrees. But, I just think that every day we have to speak life to ourselves. We have to have self-affirming, because, there's always that, thing on your shoulder that wants to kind of give you, I call it stinky thinking. And right. And you got to shake it off. You got to brush it off.
That's great.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. For Karen, for many people who hear the word NAACP in your work, and what can you explain what it means and what it stands for? I know like a lot of people, I know what it means and I know what it stands for, but there are a lot of listeners, and I'm learning that they're not all in their 30s, 50s like we are, because I have some of my nieces listen to the podcast. I'm like, really? And they're in their early 30s. And so can you give us what the NAACP stand for outside of the acronym, but what is like they stand for as a body of work for advocacy?
Okay, so the NAACP, as you said in the introduction, stands for the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. It is our nation's oldest and largest civil rights organization, established way back in 1909. So we are 115 years old. We'll be 116 years old next year. And it's an organization that is membership-based. And where we have 2,200 units or branches across this country. That also includes branches or chapters on college campuses. And there are about 2 million plus advocates that we have on the rolls, of which I would say we operate in about 47 states. So for the most part, in most communities, even in Idaho and Utah, we have units, and we are all volunteers. So when the Dallas president for the NAACP, Michelle, is a volunteer and works really, really hard. And when we talk about who is the NAACP is me. The NAACP are those people that make up of it. And so it is really important that we have people who are on the ground and who are working. And when I say we're all volunteers, the people who are not volunteers are the president and CEO, who you see on cable very often in the news, Derek Johnson, and our national staff. But we advocate, we agitate, we litigate for civil rights for Black Americans and other marginalized communities. And we work to promote a society, bring forth a society where people are able to be their best selves and have an equal chance to thrive. I mean, bottom line, we are involved in issues on economic empowerment, education, healthcare, environmental climate justice, certainly civic engagement. We just came out of a period where we had a historic $20 million campaign to fund not just our local units, but those that were on the ground doing the work of helping to get people out to vote, because we know that our power is in our vote, and trying to let people know that from a nonpartisan lens so that they could exercise their power. And maybe while the presidency, went different from what some of us thought would be in the best interest of Black Americans and marginalized communities, what we have to remember is that states and localities are where, the rubber hits the road for policy. And so it is critically important that while we pay attention to what's happening in Washington, that we don't lose sight of what's happening in states like Texas or Louisiana, where you are, Julia, or in New York, where I am, because that also is important. And we will be having elections, guess what, in 2025 and 2026. So it is not an all or nothing exercise. And so, it's really about, making sure people understand their power, understanding that elections have consequences, and that we must get back on the horse and get to the work that needs to be done, because in our local communities is where the work of government is truly felt.
Thank you.
Well said. Yeah, thank you. I talk a lot to people around me about local government and how, the complaining about the national government is like, yes, but did you, vote in the school board and the city council and, county commissioners, and those are where the policies actually a lot of times reach into our lives. So thank you for saying all of that. And you did speak a little bit. So my question to you is also about the NAACP. And I know that, they've spent the past 4 years holding the Biden-Harris administration accountable for racial equity goals and such, and also launched the largest civic engagement program that you just spoke about, in trying to reach Black voters and amplify people in a nonpartisan way just to get involved in the election. I know that now, post-presidential election, how has, through your lens, in your role with the NAACP, how do you process this presidential election, and what changes, challenges is the NAA anticipating, and how are they kind of gearing up for the next 4 years from a federal level, but also, as you said, trickling down?
Yeah. That's a great question. That's a great question. It'll be a month from the election, just a couple of days. And like everybody, looking to get the analysis, doing the analysis of what happened. Because certainly, if you watch any amount of TV, it just seems all skewed. But what I would say is, after the election, I went with 2 of my sorority sisters to Nevis, which was, for me, a bit of a pilgrimage.
Awesome. I saw some pictures on your Instagram. Fabulous.
But back to work. But, at the end of the day, from the NAACP's perspective is, we've been here before. Period, point blank. We know what is necessary, and what is necessary is for us to collectively work to be strategic and intentional in our efforts. We know that Project 2025 is a real thing. It has always been a real thing, despite what people wanted to say, and we sounded the alarm. But here we are, and here we go. Here we are, and here we go. And so we are, from our committees, and I named some of the issue areas. We are looking at, what are they saying in Project 2025, and ensuring that we are looking at that and putting together the strategies that we will need to employ to push back, fight back in those areas. And it's important that we do that work so that it cascades within our organization, so we are all aligned. And what is so powerful is that we are not alone. We have partners. We have strategic partners, other organizations that are like-minded, who also are putting together the strategies in which to be able to fight back. And to be honest, we don't exactly know, you can't play in this instance, still trying to understand a few things, but doing the work now to get things stood up, because it's going to be on and popping. And, we have to be able to push back, and we are unwavering. We are steadfast in being on the front lines, and we will be there with others. And we are hoping that there will be an outpouring of people wanting to work together. But, so many people are so despondent, beaten down, just jaded. And that's where some people would want them to be, so that in essence, they're paralyzed and not willing to get back up and do the work. One of my favorite gospel singers says, "We fall down, but we get up."
Come
right?
on, Darnie.
Yes, there you go.
This was a blow. This was a blow, but we have to get up. Like our children, our children's children, and their children are depending upon us. But what gives me hope are our young leaders. And so I have the privilege of working with so many young leaders across this country. And I believe they're going to help us to get it right because they are determined. They are like, we don't know how you guys messed this up so bad, but we are going to be part of the effort. And if you think about it, there's been no social movement that has been successful without young people. And so it's not just about saying they are our future, they are our now. And we have to have them at the table with us as we talk about, what are the strategies that are necessary to be able to fight these next 4 years. And to also understand you can't go chasing every ball, right? Because you'll run pillar to post and you won't make any progress because the chaos will be swirling. And if you aren't focused and intentional about where it is that you will engage, you'll be screaming about everything, which means you'll be screaming about nothing because no one will be paying attention to you. So there's a lot before us, for sure, but I am energized, I am optimistic, and I refuse to give in to the negative energy because it will not do me any good and nor the people to whom look to me and to whom it is that I want to work, to keep advancing and moving us forward.
Thank you. Karen, do you have any resources for like our listeners or even some of like from the young people perspective? Like they might have resources I've probably have never heard about or anything like that. Do you have any resources for anyone who is like saying, hey, I want to do this work in equality and justice. So these are some, places I know I can go to get started and they can continue to learn.
So that's a great question. So a few things. Certainly, there are organizations that you can join. The NAACP, which is naacp.org. There's the American Civil Liberties Union, the ACLU, organizations that are viable, that are longstanding, that are grassroots in its nature and have power and doing the work. So joining organizations, certainly. Then there are I call them action tools. Organizations like the Color for Change and vote.org, places where they do petitions. We do them too, but that's kind of what they solely do, right? Where they are talking about issues and, you can send a letter to your legislator, very easily by putting in your address and your zip code, right? And it produces the letter. If you want to edit it, you can, but if not, because that's a way to make your voice heard. We got to also do the educational work. And so by keeping ourselves informed, like when I said that this is not something new, the chairman of the board, Leon Russell, sent the president and I a clip from an interview that Marlon Brando had with Johnny Carson from YouTube. And if you listen to that conversation, one, you see what a strong supporter Marlon Brando was for civil rights and social justice. But to hear them talk, you could be having the same conversation as we're having right now. And so to know our history, to understand that we've been through this before, watching movies like Selma, watching movies like Rustin, reading books, those sorts of things, just to kind of help us, understand the moment that we're in. It may feel like for some people it's the end of the world. And I know people are looking about moving to Ghana and Costa Rica and all these other places. But I'm not going nowhere. I don't know about you. And so if you're not going anywhere, and if you're not happy about the direction that things may go, then you need to be involved. And then the last thing I would say is through community engagement. If there are if there are town hall meetings happening in your community, if there are public forums, if there are communities coming together to talk about Project 2025 and what's next, to attend, whether it's virtual or in person, to understand kind of what the game plan is. Like, okay, coach, okay, what we doing? So, those are ways, and those are some resources that people can use to kind of get engaged.
Thank you. Those are great resources. Yeah, it's really important. I think, as you've been talking, I was thinking the election was, there's some information out there that's suggesting that it was a landslide, but it was actually the closest, I think, in since the 19th century. So there's a lot of people that didn't show up the way that, and we're in a democracy, so it goes the way that it goes, and we work with that. But that, for people who don't know that, raise your voice, be a part of keeping an eye on things, and getting involved and making a difference. So thank you for calling out those resources.
Yeah, and Michelle, I mean, you said it right. We had a fair election as part of the democratic process, and one side got more votes than another. And so that means that, yes, we live in a polarized, divided country. But the one thing that we can each do individually is not live in the echo chamber of those who think like us. Right?
So true. Yes.
And so to be open, to have conversations, to find where it is that we may connect, where might we have similarities, where might there be opportunities to work together, locally, right? Because as long as we're all in our far corners, that means that there's a huge space that does not allow us to kind of move forward and do what. So God only knows what the Congress is going to look like, right? But hopefully there will be opportunities for nonpartisanship of issues that are important to kind of keep our country moving forward. And there will be another election, and so maybe people will feel differently, but it's important to engage people now and not to just think that because of a party label, they're going to be with you, because I think those days are fastly going behind us.
I think you're right. Yeah. Well, I'm going to switch gears up a little bit, because Julie and I are, first of all, I know that you are a fitness guru. You've been into fitness your entire life. And Julie and I are women of certain age. And so we're constantly talking about, the three of us, I'm not going to call you out on that, but yes, of how we can take care of ourselves from a health and fitness standpoint. And I know for me, as I get older, I feel like I have to work out twice as hard to get half as far. And you have such a full life. So how do you fit exercise into your life? What is your routine? And then what is your current regimen, and how has it evolved over the years as you've, as your life has changed?
As I answer this question, I feel like I want to lay on my couch, because this might be therapy. But I don't want to say I have a love-hate relationship with exercising. I think I am because when I do it, I enjoy it and I always feel better, right? But pushing myself to do it is something that I'm trying to make routine, because it's not just the exercise is the physical part of what is necessary for us to stay healthy and for us to age gracefully, right? We want to, you guys travel all the time. And so my thing is always wanting to be able to lift my carry-on bag and put it, it's functional things, right? I also want to fit in my clothes because I can't afford to kind of redo my wardrobe.
Same.
but it's really from a health perspective. And as we age, like no one really talks so much about aging. We're doing it more, but just things just start happening and you're like, wait, what is going on? So it's about the exercise is important, but the nutritional aspect is what I am embracing more and more over the years, which is one of the evolutions that I'm making. I used to be one of those people who, if they were having coffee, my husband would say, are you going to have coffee with that sugar? Right? Because I would put in like maybe 4 teaspoons of sugar. Right.
Wow.
And so when I was younger, that was cool. That was fine. Right. But when you know better, you do better. At least that's what they tell me. And so, it's about, doing those small things because you can't, outrun a bad diet, and so it starts in the kitchen. And so really being intentional about my food choices helps me to stay healthy. And the exercise goes along with it. Because if I'm just exercising, that is not going to do it in and of itself. I think while I still do cardio, definitely have incorporated more strength exercising in. I do have a trainer. I belong to this community of women of a certain age called Lady Max Fitness that that is run by, her name is Nicole Sanders, and most days I do not call her by her name because she
What do you call her?
it's not fit for a podcast. But I love her.
Of course.
And she helps women of a certain age because, all of a sudden, once you are perimenopause or hit menopause, like crazy things start happening. And, I don't know about your mother, but my mother never really talked about that stage of her life. And I just remember just some of the outbursts, and I attribute that maybe that what was happening at the time, but I had no clue then. But, really trying to understand and having her, we do virtual training twice a week, certainly the focus on nutrition, and it's a community of other women who it's like a support system. And so that really helps me to stay fit and trim, but more importantly, have a focus on my health.
Do you have any like special kind of hacks or how you get through the holiday season?
Well, what I will say is this. Nicole, she says that, naturally, most people will indulge. And at some point, you need to, give yourself grace, right? But the other thing is, but it's never as bad as it was, right? So yeah, Thanksgiving, I had sweet potato pie because I made it and it was good. And so, I'm not eating, a lot of bad food, right? I'm not, there was a time, I'll confess, I would have 2 Haagen-Dazs milk chocolate ice cream bars. They were my favorite. And I might have 2 in an evening. Now, I don't miss it. I don't really eat it. I no longer drink soft drinks. I was a Pepsi addict, I believe, back in 2014, 2015. Once I joined Lady Max Fitness, hadn't had a Pepsi since then.
Wow.
I was, but now that I'm watching for the amount, if you look at these labels, the amount of sugar. Did you like Mountain Dew used to be my favorite? Do you know how many grams of sugar Mountain Dew has? It is insane.
It's like a week's worth.
Right. I mean, so really making smarter choices, and being more intentional, and realizing that if I want to be able to continue to enjoy my husband and us traveling and doing all the things like teenagers, then I gotta be mindful, because I'm not trying to leave here no time soon, and want to do my best to set myself up to be able to age like my in-laws, 90 and 87, and they are traveling, they are doing all the things and have so much energy, and that's how I would like my life to be.
Oh, me too.
I was recently heard this Jane Fonda talk about the mindset, right? I think generations before, they didn't have this positive mindset. And it was a lot of, I'm getting older. Oh my God, everything is going, to hell in a handbasket, basically. And there's science now saying if your mindset also helps control some of how you age. Along with also the exercise and what we eat as well. But mindset really wasn't talked about years ago, right? In the same way that we have more information now, right? We just have more information about mindset, and which leads me like, how do you rest? Like, I know I don't call it busy.
I tell people all the time, she has a full life.
I have a full life. People always say, you're busy. I'm like, nope, I am not busy. I have a full life because I am a rest person. I can rest and do nothing. I mean, I can do nothing. Like, if it was an award, I can do it. So how do
amazing.
Yeah, Michelle is like,
I've seen the other. Michelle has a tough time just doing nothing.
Yeah, like we were talking about something months ago about after Christmas, and I was like, "Oh, I'm on really do not disturb." The whole week is like a do not disturb, and Michelle was like, "Really?" I'm like, "Yes." So
what do you do? You just sit? Like, what do you do?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a book. I actually, for me, like, for resting for me means deep into a thriller. Like, I don't want to read. I'm not trying to read too
something.
Thick. Okay. But also, it means when I say do nothing, I mean taking a walk. There's no phone. There is nothing to listen to because you're still
your mind's
in the process, right?
Yeah, so I could do that. Yeah,
like, but I'll do that for 5-7 straight days. I don't mean like one day. I mean nothing. So how do you rest? Because I am the queen of rest. Like I'm a big fan of Rest as a Resistance, the book, the workbook, everything she talks about in there. I'm like, nope. I mean, no getting up early. Like it's one of those. It's 1 week that I don't get up early and think I need to do something.
And you know what? Being able to do that is huge. I mean, I know we're laughing, but this society has had us where if you're not doing something, then you are a failure. Or if you're not doing something, you are a slacker. And, that should not be. And as I age, I am getting more comfortable with kind of slowing down to do what I want to do and not necessarily feeling like I have to do everything. Now, I may be a little more like Michelle than like you, but I'm a work in progress. God ain't through with me yet, So I am aware, and it takes me time. Like I believe that I am addicted
to your phone. She's holding up her phone.
Yes. Oh right. Yeah.
Yes.
My phone.
Watch the video.
Which I'm trying to get better at. Because the mindset is important and we have to give our bodies and our minds time to rest, to reset, because otherwise, you're anxiety ridden, you are, nervous about everything, you are anxious, you are not maybe treating people well because you're on your edge and all of the things. So how do I rest? I too, I have some favorite shows, FBI, Law and Order. But right now I just finished Cross. It was great. And watching Lioness now.
Yes.
Who knew?
Who knew?
Who knew?
Who
But
knew?
anyway, so I digress. So I will allow myself to have time. I have friends who I joke with. I'm like, do you ever just stay in your pajamas and your house slippers? Because I have friends who just, but I'm okay with that. I don't get to do it often, but I am okay with it when I can have it. Now, if you don't do it on your own, God has a way of making you do it. And so for Thanksgiving, I was in bed all day sick. It wasn't COVID, it wasn't the flu, because I finally went to the doctor and got tested, but I had to take an antibiotic, right? And my family loved it. My kids, who one flew from California, the other two from North Carolina, they're like, this is the best Thanksgiving ever. And I'm like,
why?
but
Did you all just like cuddle up together, or what did you?
yeah. I normally host for the last 16 years a Thanksgiving dinner with 30 plus people.
Oh.
I canceled that on November 7th to protect my mental health. That's what the note said. That's what the note said to family and friends, with enough plant time. But then I was supposed to go to my dear friend Melba's house for dinner, first time ever. But I was too sick to do that. And so we had food in the house and we watched movies, and they were like, this is the best thing. And what it said to me is sometimes less is more, right? Sometimes less is more. And sometimes just I like to say, when both girls are home, like, I have a full nest. And sometimes just having a full nest, and you find ways to reconnect and to catch up and just spend time. And we all need that instead of always, rushing and going. And so, Julia, that means you're going to have to write a book.
How to be still and do nothing.
Don't tell my age. It's really one of my really great yoga teachers used to call them bed days, and she would wake up, take a shower, make her coffee, and she would stay in bed all day, fresh pajamas, a gown, robe, whatever that made you. It was the opposite of kind of like, let's go, let's go, let's go.
Yes.
And for me, like, sometimes when I'm like in Maryland at home and it rains, I will sit on my patio and look at the rain with nothing on, no TV. My husband's like, what are you doing? Watching the rain. I'm just watching the rain, just kind of clearing my head, not really kind of go. There's no notepad, because sometimes you like, oh, I need an idea to come. The key is just to how to make it. Because I think for women, it's really hard for a lot of us to rest. So I had to forcefully do it. And I think what really made me profound in resting was going through seasons of death and grief where I physically couldn't get out the bed. I know what that is. Yeah. And I was like, okay, how do I do this when no one is passing away? No one is needing me to take care of them. How do I do it to take care of myself?
Yes.
And then I read the book Rest is Resistance and all those kind of things. And I was just like, I am very adamant about it. I put it in my calendar. So I do plan it. So I tell people it's not like, oh, I'm just going to wake up and oh, no, it's very planned. It's very thought out. The house is full of food and drinks and beverages or whatever I may need. But I am like, nope, no email, because it's like you said, people will email you on a Saturday expecting a response. Oh, yeah. And that first time you do it, and it's kind of also like social media is the same, right? Yep. I may want to be on my social media because I love seeing videos of little kids dancing. That doesn't mean I want you to see that I'm on social for you to message me. No, it's just like one of those things. So I understand, like you said, the thing for the phone. So what I do a lot of times, I delete apps from my phone and just put them back on. So for the week of Thanksgiving, I deleted Instagram. I deleted Instagram. I just delete it. It's not going to lose your information. You can log back in within 30 days. There was nothing I needed to do.
But why can't you just open it? Why did you have to delete it?
Because the incentive is somebody will text me, send me an Instagram link. Then I am reading the text. And so if they delete it and I just say, hey, I won't be back on until Monday. And they're like, oh, okay, well, just open it then.
Yeah. I wasn't on social very much at all over the Thanksgiving because I really was not feeling well. Still trying to catch up a bit. But I think, it's also like testing myself. Like, okay, Karen, you're not going to, you're not going to touch your phone first thing in the morning, right? You're not and to say I'm going to keep my phone in the bag in my purse instead of, when you're out to dinner and we think we're multitasking and I was at a conference where this woman talked about how it is it really sends a signal that you're not that important to me if you're talking to me and I am texting on my phone or I am, and I'm saying I'm listening. And so, not wanting to be disrespectful and not wanting to be disrespected, just really trying to reset some of the things that I would normally do because hopefully when you know better, you do better, but also not wanting to be tethered to this thing where it's controlling me versus me controlling it. And I don't, in no situation of my life am I doing brain surgery. So none of it is like the world is going to end if I don't respond to something, immediately, right? So just really kind of adjusting the way I think because I'm really not all that important. And when I get to it, it will be okay versus, I don't have the nuclear code. So it's like
darn.
we gotta keep it in perspective, right? Because sometimes I think we can take ourselves too seriously.
Absolutely. Wow. Well, I think that's a great segue into, so as you know, our podcast is called Just Getting Better. Julia and I always ask each other how each episode we're just getting better. And we like to ask our guests also how they're just getting better. So Karen, right now in this moment, in this day, how are you just getting better?
I am working to try and operate in the present versus always thinking ahead of what I have to do, right? So I would find myself like in a beautiful place doing whatever and then being concerned with what do I have to do next week? Right? Like we don't know how much time we have and we have to enjoy the moments that we do. And when we're so busy trying to go from one thing to the next, there's not always joy and there's not always the enriching understanding the richness of what you have at that moment. And so I am working on, and my husband laughs because he's just like, he knows what I'm trying to do. And he wants me to succeed because he does not like to have to think about what we have on the calendar 3 months from now, because he's just like, can I just live?
Oh, poor guy.
So, I'm trying to get better with that, and it's being very intentional about it.
It's hard.
Yeah, but it's important. It's really important so you can savor what I think, we have so much where we're always thinking about what's next or what we have to do or what we want versus like now is great. So and I'm probably one of the only guests who's like sent you a note like, can I be on?
No, you're not. No, you're not.
No, you're not.
When I did it on Instagram,
we love that though. Thankfully,
we love it, yes.
That's continuing to happen, and we love that.
Yeah, because I was just like, oh, that's so lame. But I'm like, I don't care.
No, because every guest touches people, and that's what we hear as the feedback. Is like every guest, there's something that is said that they are like, oh, I needed that takeaway.
Yeah.
Yes.
But what you guys are doing with this platform is so important. It's so needed. It is funny, but it's informative. And it really is a place where, you can see yourself, whoever you can see yourself in the situations that you're kind of living through and experiencing. So
I hope so. Thank you. Well,
thank you so much
of women like you coming on and sharing your stories and all of the great conversations and dialogues that we have. We women, we're just getting better.
Yes,
every day.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Karen, so much. Now tell our audience where they can find you so they can see all your fabulous photos. And my favorite part is like your glam. Your glam squad, when you're in California, I was like, I'm going to need the makeup artist. I'm going to need everybody. The glam is glamming. I love it.
Well, and I want to meet you in person because I want to be on that Instagram page with you. I'm like, these are fabulous people. Look at you and all your fabulousness.
We got to meet up. Well, I met up with Julia in real life, and that was I was like, I didn't know if someone like her existed, and then it was like I didn't want to let her go. But you're talking about our NAACP Image Awards, where I'm the chair, and the live show will be on CBS and BET February 22nd. And nominees will be announced on January 7th. So we are entering into award season, and it's an important platform where we are able to celebrate Black excellence and celebrate and uplift, those in our community who are, whether they are literary giants or just people in literature, music, podcasts. Hopefully you guys will submit for next year for consideration.
That'd be fun.
But it's great, and I can be found on Karen B.Towns on all social platforms, including TikTok. But I'm more of a lurker on TikTok. I'm going to try and lean in maybe more in 2020. Well, who knows? TikTok might even not be here anymore.
True.
I will say TikTok. I am on there for book talk and cooking. I found some of the best recipes, easy, very simple, minimal ingredients on TikTok.
Yeah. So Karen B. Towns on all platforms. I've been thinking, like, do I take some of the pictures? Like, people like curate their stuff and like, because mine, if you go back, it goes back. Like I've never really taken anything down, but I live my life kind of publicly, and so
and authentically. So do what feels right to you.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you so much, Karen. This is amazing.
Thank you so much, Karen.
Thank you so much. And happy holidays.
Happy holidays to you. Thank you.
Right.
Thanks for listening to Just Getting Better with your hosts, Michelle Williams
and Julia Coney.
We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into some important topics impacting women today. To ensure you never miss an episode, click follow or subscribe.
Head over to isjustgettingbetter.com to sign up for our email list, as well as check out all the links and resources in the show notes. And be sure to follow us on social media. If you love the show, will you please help us build our community by sharing it with friends? Until next time, keep just getting better.